man. Well, that was a day and a half. I took that's Sarah's little nephew. He's 3 years old. We have him here for a handful of days. So I got all the gear together, threw him in the inflatable, and we drifted all the way down the river. And we took him fishing and bear hunting. Caught about a 15-pound Chinook salmon. I don't have a picture of it. Sarah's got it. I'll post it up maybe later on the community page. That was pretty exciting. Got about a 15-pound salmon, and he was freaking right out. I was too scared to touch it for a while, but he finally gave in. And then we drifted all the way down the river and had snacks, fished more, and then saw a great big bear at the end of the day. Managed to get a picture of him with the bear behind him. We were in the boat and he was safe. It's pretty good. So my wind down time is right now. Excuse me. And what else? A good friend of mine's daughter won the frickin' lottery, and she got a island elk draw to hunt. Unbelievable luck. Archery. It was a crossbow. And they've been having some poor luck so far, so I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive an hour, meet up with them, and I'm going to try to help her get a monster bull elk tomorrow morning. And I'll try to videotape it. That'll be absolutely exciting for all involved, especially me. It's so much fun. Now, excuse me, what do we got here? More voices that need to be heard. Tons. I don't know what is going on, you guys. I honestly do not know what's going on. There is literally thousands of people piling into this channel subscribing. I don't know what's up, because as you know, we don't promote it. I don't promote it. Thousands of people are coming here right now. It's just flooding. I don't know what's going on. It's 1,000 people every couple days, and that's been the pattern for quite some time. I don't know what's up. But anyways, and with that's going to come some new voices too, right? Get in line. This is titled, This Year's Instances. Hi Steve. I have sent in every story I've had and some ramblings. Luckily I haven't seen one yet. Really? This year I have 2 stories. First was rather frightening for me, but it possibly doesn't just deal directly with Sasquatch. I spent the day checking trail cameras this summer in a remote area of New York State's Adirondacks. I was back where my camp was set up. At dusk I began to hear knocking and occasionally a few pebbles thrown. I didn't really want to leave camp, so I whacked a tree back and in a serious tone said in my mind, I'm not leaving. Would you please leave me alone? Surprisingly, shortly thereafter, the knocking stopped. I continued to sit by the fire and finally went to bed. Around 2 a.m., I was woken by mouse kicking around outside my tent. I got up just to make sure it was a mouse, and it was. However, due to the occurrence hours before I was awake, so I tried calming down and standing there trying to get the mouse that's now in the bed of my truck out. I stood up after trying to scare it out, sighing, thinking, come on little guy. Then a hand pressed firmly on my shoulder. Ooh. I shrugged and batted it away and turned. My headlamp showed nothing. I literally felt my arm touch and move a being's arm, but it wasn't there. I stayed in my truck until sunup. I went back to bed for a few hours. Same place it was the last day I hunted in the Adirondacks this year. I had tracking snow set off from the same spot previously described. Cut a track and it walked past one of my cams. It was a smaller buck 7-point, but it was a guaranteed buck, so I took it. It was 3.5 hours ahead of me. Instead of explaining a hunting story, his track became a running track at a point. I caught up to him. But once he slowed down, his track was mixed with a bunch of tracks. I picked up another track that was larger, guessing that was one of the fully mature whitetails I have on cam. I took that one. He took me uphill, which they do. I came to a spot looking around a rock face in front. Where's this guy going to go? At the same time, I received a giant smell of a skunk. I looked down at the deer. Sorry. I looked down. The deer did the same thing, just stopped. Didn't move a step closer. I continued on his track. I don't think it was a bear den. It's odd that even the deer knew it wasn't right. The spot of the smell is about a mile as the crow flies from camp. I've been hunting that area for 4 to 5 years now. Never have I had these experiences. Never got a skunk on camera. Regardless, I didn't look around much after I smelled the odor. I just looked down at the tracks. Mentally noted, he didn't like this either and kept tracking. He bedded shortly after on the hillside and caught up to a doe and fawn. Came up on 3 beds. Never did see the deer. It's enjoyable to track though. I'm not sure what to make of this stuff. My brother had a similar experience tree knocking and pebbles around the same time, checking cams, staying at the same place. He was planning on spending multiple days moving stuff around and cut his time short. It's unnerving because I'm okay in the woods alone. It's great to have company. But at the time, it's not just necessary for me. My brother's the same way, but this year we both preferred to have someone else there. If no one was there, we were very good about inReach use, which we bought for emergency and general hunting communication if miles apart, stating what our plans are. Before these occurrences, we didn't message in the morning, and when back at camp if no one else was there. It's downright wrong to feel a hand on your shoulder, bat it off, and feel that, and turn to see nothing. In a remote area, I can deal with knocking and pebbles. However, it's not fun. Not much one can do about these things. They want their space and I want mine. I'm not interested in their business and kindly hope they respect that. The only harm I would bring them is shame. In my mind, I'm a guest to the woods. I pose no immediate threat. Perhaps they were warning me of a threat, but possibly what touched me, and not acting territorial. Anyhow, not a sighting. Hopefully never have one. If this story pertains more to something someone you know is investigating these types of things, feel free to share. I don't really care if you share this on your channel, more or less sent, because it's odd, and certainly aspects are Sasquatch related. Cheers, Matt. Okay, Matt, gotcha. I don't think anybody wants to have that experience, especially in the woods hunting. I don't. I've had enough. I mean, I get it, but touching you and remaining transparent, or whatever you want to call it, that's a shitty game to do to anybody, right? That game potentially absolutely changes a person's life forever. That potentially causes lifelong PTSD. You don't know you just don't know the type of character a human being is before something like that's done to them. You could even trigger somebody to off themselves. You never know, right? PTSD does a lot of nasty things to people. It's dirty pool, as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a shit if that's a friendly touch or not. That's dirty pool. If you're that intelligent, just come right out and speak and say something. Just say it. Do you know what I mean? Enough's enough for the games and the bullshit. We know you're there. We know you're not a damn monkey. You're not an animal. You outclass us in every way possible. Just speak. Just say your spiel. Get it over with. Just speak and say it. You know what I mean? Quit effing around. Quit screwing with people's lives and just speak. Just say it. You know what I mean? It's time. The cat's out of the bag. We know it. We know. We get it. We get it. We know you're there. You know, I keep saying it when I'm in the woods by myself. I know you're here. I always say, just leave me alone. And I don't feel like a guest, to be honest. I don't feel like a guest in the woods at all. I feel like that is my home too, and we'll share it. Some people may argue with that. I don't give a shit. Take from what you will or leave it. But I'm not a guest on this planet. I'm not. I'm not a guest here. I was born here. My flesh and blood is made from the minerals that apparently make up the crust of this damn ball. Right? Oops, I called it a ball. Uh-oh. You know what I mean? I'm not a guest here. I live here. I'm from here. Anyway, I'll stop before I start ranting. I can get a bit of an attitude when it comes to that part. There's too much attacks on human beings right now. It's too much. Let's read on. Hold on a minute. Where are we? Where are we? Losing my spot. I got to get into the right column, I believe. All right. I hope I'm not sharing something that has already been heard. Here we go. This is titled Great Cover-Up. Sorry, by the way, getting back to the original email or one previous, just so you know, you're not the only one to have been touched or touched something and you can't see it. Okay, just so you know. I'm in direct contact with a scientist who has recently experienced the same thing, only a little bit more. And not in a bad way, just he was shown how their body temperature could be instantly manipulated while he was touching the arm and the leg of this being, which was communicating with them at the same time. So I'm just saying that to add that in, man. You're not crazy, all right? You're not the only one. It's a good thing. It's a pattern. This is titled Great Cover-Up. Hey, Stephen, my name is Jim Myers. I live in a small town by the name of Bailey in the foothills of the Rockies in Colorado. I've been following you for some time and appreciate your candor and your no-nonsense approach to the topic of Sasquatch. As well, the obvious cover-up that's been going on for a very long time. My wife and I own and run a quirky store called the Sasquatch Outpost. And we built an educational exhibit that we call the Sasquatch Encounter. The goal of the exhibit is to open people's eyes and minds to the fact that Sasquatch people are real. That they live all around us, and that they leave signs of their presence in an area in the form of tree structures, nests, etc. I would rather that hikers, campers, and hunters, etc. go into the woods with at least basic knowledge of a Sasquatch than for them to remain ignorant and possibly put themselves in danger as a result. David Plydus is a good friend, and he speaks very highly of you. Like you and Dave, I'm a firm believer is the great cover-up that's been going on for many years, or decades, or perhaps longer, as relates to the Sasquatch forest people. Dave and I have talked at length about what the reasons for the cover-up could be, and while I have my own theories, I'm not going to take the time to get into those right now. Suffice it to say, the powers that be are fully aware of the existence of the Sasquatch people, and of the potential threat that they pose to humans. I do not believe that all Sasquatch are out there to kill humans. In fact, I'm convinced that the vast majority of them are curious about us and are observing us at all times, whether we're aware of this fact or not. However, like humans, rogue, violent Sasquatch do exist and are probably responsible for many of the unsolved missing person cases in Dave's books. I'm always armed when in the woods. Not specifically to protect myself from an aggressive Sasquatch, but more for cougars and crazy people. I know the idea of packing or not packing in the woods has been hotly debated within the Bigfoot community, though I am not convinced that the presence of a gun has any influence on Sasquatch activity at all. Ron Moorhead's hunting group were heavily armed, and yet they were visited virtually every time they come to their hunting camp. I hope your subscribers will seriously consider arming themselves while hiking and camping in the wilderness, once they have gone through a course in handgun safety. That's all I wanted to write about this time, as I've never written before. If you get to this email among your thousands of other messages, feel free to read it and use my name. If this is the correct email address, I'll write again down the road. Thanks, Steve Jim Myers. Share it, man. Why is your name familiar? I must have shared something from you before, I'm thinking. Anyways, appreciate your input, my man. I absolutely appreciate it. And keep sending it in, okay? Keep sending it in. Don't stop. There's, I think probably by now, I don't know how old that email is, but I think if your friend's Dave Pilatus, you'll probably agree that there's a big threat coming from that direction. That seems to be the fact. Another topic is titled My Stories. Hi Steve, I've been listening to your videos and really enjoying the stories, especially from BC and Vancouver Island, as that's where I live. And that's where I've also done some investigations over the years. Yes, I am a BF investigator. And yes, I know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about the arrogance and the lack of open minds in that community. Feel free to throw rocks at my head if you like, but I hope I can convince you I'm one of the good guys and more open to discussing any theory or any options. All good, man, all good. I've never lumped everybody into the same box, but I have taken note that the majority of the people who call themselves in that community that have an online presence spend a lot more time cannibalizing each other than anything else. And doing repetitive things that only keep you going in circles. Why do they do that? I don't know. Moving along. Also, this will not be a listing of name dropping or my investigations. Rather, it will be my personal experiences on these investigations, both with the eyewitnesses and the things I personally observed, as well as some stories from the various native tribes I've gathered information about on Vancouver Island, my home. I first became fascinated by Sasquatch when I watched a double feature projected onto white sheets in a local church on Salt Spring Island in '78. No shit. Crazy. There was a documentary on the Sasquatch which featured the PG film prominently, and the second feature was Legend of Boggy Creek. I was hooked. My friend and I went back to his place. The parents weren't home, and he lived in the woods. So we turned on every light in the house and sat terrified. After starting with the Cadborosaurus, since I'm from Victoria, I quickly realized he had the entire Pacific Ocean to hide in, whereas the Sasquatch population here on Vancouver Island was likely not going anywhere. It's a massive island, but it isn't the Pacific Ocean. So I began investigating sightings here with my local club. Okay, for all you who don't know, that Cadborosaurus is a classic serpent-style monster description that's been going on here for generations. Basically the same creature as the Loch Ness Monster or the Okopogo, which we have in the Okanagan and other places around the world. That's what he's referring to. Excuse me. One lady in Duncan said she had one in her backyard that would hoot at her from the copse of trees in her backyard every time she took a drag on her smoke. She said it had also run past the house one night. It was huge and shook the whole house as it went by. Problem was, she was in a suburban Duncan neighborhood, so I was puzzled where this thing had come from. I looked at the maps and soon had the answer. There was a way to get from her yard to the train tracks, largely abandoned now in Vancouver Island, a perfect Sasquatch trail at night. The tracks then crossed the power lines, and then the power lines went by the base of Mount Prevost. Well, you obviously know there's a shit pile of sightings around there. Mount Prevost is the popular hang gliding spot due to the sheer cliffs, and I theorized there might be rock fall caves at the base of those cliffs. It was fall, and there was also reports in Duncan of tracks a couple years before in pumpkin fields and missing pumpkins. I remember hearing about that. There's also fishermen getting growled at in the Cowichan River. Anyway, we did hike up to the base of those cliffs, and yes, there are tons of rock fall caves. Some very, very cool. I climbed up between two boulders, looking for a likely trail up over the mountain and found my first track, a 14-inch, 6-inch wide one. So I was hooked and off to a good start, I figured. On that same trip, we found some scat, and a scientist in the club had sent it off and analyzed, and it came back wolf. I had no idea wolves prowled as far south on Vancouver Island as that, but okay, cool. Next, my girlfriend and I took some kayaks up to Nitnat Lake to do some kayaking with the windsurfers. When we got up there, it was Gonzo Party Central, so we decided to look for a quieter spot. We were driving around the west side of Nitnat Lake, which is actually connected to the ocean, and I was looking for any side roads down to the lake. I got out of my van, spread the map on the hood, and suddenly I was hit with an overwhelming sense of dread. I was in the Canadian Forces as a grunt, and the closest thing I could approximate it to is if a sniper was drawing a bead on the back of my neck and I could sense it. I stared down at my shoes and slunk into the van and drove off, too terrified to look behind me. Was a cougar up on a rock about to pounce on me or something else? I don't know. I've never experienced that in my life before. Side note, that side of the lake is where there's a lot of sightings. A friend of mine, full-time fishing guide, saw one there when he was deer hunting, excuse me, in the fall. He said it's just standing there with his arm and hand resting on a stump, staring at him in a freshly logged area. Also, the bridge, the main line across the Nitnat River, I stopped and made a video for you guys. Right there, tons of activity there. I interviewed two fishermen at Port Alberni one time. They were fishing the Stamp River during salmon season. They went down there and heard chatter they couldn't identify. Then saw a big male watching them. It turned away and walked off into the bush. As I was listening to them, I watched the hairs stand up on the guy's arms. He was reliving it, and he was terrified. I knew then there was something to this, and this was a good sign of a truthful witness. He started trembling, too. We checked out the area and found strange sticks about 4 inches around, rammed into the ground in this ferny area where it looked like several things had bedded down. I also hung a really fat, juicy dead salmon up a tree, and later, yes, it was gone. Side note, we got a number of people that said if you want to see a Sasquatch, just walk the Stamp River. Lots is going on there forever, especially at the fish hatchery too. Had a lot of people that work at the fish hatchery get a hold of me and tell me that they had experiences there. All fish hatcheries in Vancouver Island have action. Actually, all the fish hatcheries I'm aware of in southern BC have regular action this time of year. It's just they do. When we first got there, I noticed a classic large tree arc over the trail. It had been deliberately hooked under another tree. It was covered in moss. It looked really cool. I don't know what stock to put in those things. It's cool, it's interesting, and it's fun to walk through them and speculate what they might mean, if anything. I never found anything I would call a shelter, and I think they mostly construct hunting blinds myself. Now, some native tales. My girlfriend's father-in-law saw me on the blah 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 website. I'm not going to promote it, sorry. One time he told me a story. He was roofing a house up by the fish hatchery on the Cowichan River, and he was with some native guys. Every night before dark they would leave early. He was getting pissed at them, so he asked them what the deal was. Book comes around after dark here. We don't want to be around when he does. Book? He asked. What, deer? Bucks? No, book was. You know, Bigfoot. We fish on the river at night too, and some nights we go down there and Book is already there. He will chuck rocks at you, so we don't fish on nights they're down there. You asked recently if there are any positive experiences with the Sasquatch. You're right, very few. But there is one which may be true or not, but it has a strange sound of truth to it. I met a native woman on the island who was willing to share stories from her youth and her tribe. She said the tribe has a secret society of women singers. Part of the initiation ritual is for the new singer to go into the longhouse, and fast for a spirit vision. This is done to learn what animal will be your sacred spirit for your singing. She was starving and crying of her hunger when she heard something jump down onto the roof of the longhouse. She heard it walk along the smoke hole. She looked up, and a Sasquatch was looking down at her. It then lowered a freshly killed deer down through the smoke hole and dropped it by the fire and left. So, her spirit being became the Sasquatch. The native woman, who I will not name nor her tribe, lived along the Chemainus River as a child, and she remembers the Sasquatch would run beside their house and bang on it with his hand, scaring everyone. Her uncle also saw one on the Nanaimo River. She thinks they come down out of the mountains when the water runs low up there in late summer, and also to fish when the runs are going on. She says her sister now hears them in her yard at night. They bang on the ground and make this big pounding noise. Interestingly, this all started after her tribe was given permission to begin logging on their land. If you ever get into the Native Friendship Center in Duncan, there is some fantastic Sasquatch artwork of them harvesting clams at low tide in the moonlight, and one of Desonaqua abducting children in her basket. My last experience I'll share is last year. My girlfriend and I were camping at Sasquatch Provincial Park. And on the first night, about 3 a.m., I got up for a piss. I got back in the tent, and I heard a distinct two-tone whoop way off in the distance, followed by answering calls of at least two more, one mid-distance, and one on the mountain right above our campsite. This went on for 40 minutes. We had declared a no phones campout, and I was not carrying any equipment, as what are the chances? No way. I woke my girlfriend and we listened to it. It was like they were letting each other know they were there. I jokingly called it a Sasquatch roll call. We listened to tons of wildlife calls, and the only thing that matched was the Alert Bay news story of John Bindernagel investigating mysterious calls in that native community up island. A boy caught some calls on his cell phone, and it was pretty much the exact of what we heard that night. The next night, as it was getting dark, there was a scream from midway up the mountain, more of a very steep rock hill about 1,000 feet high. Seemed detected straight at our campsite. It happened again, and the kids in the campsite beside us started mimicking it. I'm less certain what it was. It was a strange scream. Not super loud, but very focused. I got up, banged on a tree with a stick, and it stopped. My native friend told me, "You got the knock wrong, you probably told it to F off." I've heard from other natives that tree banging is a bad idea, as it's a territorial signal. So I may not do that anymore. Sounds legit to me. This has been a kind of a brain dump. I apologize if it's too long. Use bits if you like, or hit delete. Anyway, I think you're doing an amazing job, and I love your videos. Excuse me. For now, I keep looking for them, and you're right. Be careful what you wish for. As you stare into the abyss also stares back into you, and all that. Gavin, Vancouver Island. Okay, man, appreciate you, man. Yeah, I don't need to go on a tirade or a rant about the website you mentioned. You know what's going on there. You know what's going on there. What can I say? Not much. You're on it in Vancouver Island. I just hope you listen to the people as well, right? All the people here, listen to the people. I know that all these people have in the past, well, not all of them. I know some people have contacted the website in the past, and I know that their stories have not been shared, and I know it's intentional. I know it's intentional that the crackhead leader of that group has done some real shitty thing to people I know, alright? And he's also done real shitty things to people who thought they were in contact with someone of support. Turns out they weren't. He's switched stories around, omitted people's stories, belittled people, and told them they were not seeing what they saw, etc., etc. Absolute douchebag. But anyways, I'm not painting all the people associated with the same brush. And many of the people from that website who contacted me just to flat out tell me that they're only there because they have access to all the info. Well, I'm pretty certain this channel has probably 10 times the amount of info by now. Just saying. What else would I say? Cameron Lake, either side, Heideland, Mount Arrowsmith. There you go. Go get them. That's all I got to say on that. If that's what you're looking for and that's where you're into, right? Alright, what do we got here? This is titled Proposal and Story from the Foul-Mouthed Imp. This is a different kind of title. How long is this? Not too long. Let's do it. Steve. After sharing my story, I'll share an idea that will help get things moving much faster for everyone. That being said, go ahead and use my name, Randall Magley, i.e. the Harmonica Man. Look me up if you want. I have a lot to offer. Even being a disabled person, I don't care about the opinions of others spouting off things they don't have a clue about. That's from any type of believer or non-believer. None of us are experts on the wild people topic. I've had a lifetime of ridicule anyway, from childhood to even after the military, right up until a couple days ago. Now I just play the part of the kooky comic and it's great. If you want crazy, I'll show you crazy. It's pretty fun, actually. Just be happy. Just be happy-go-lucky. And don't worry what other people think. They're not brave enough to be in the front of others being themselves anyway. My story begins with my first year in my cabin in northwestern Lower Michigan. It was summertime, so the windows were open, and the cool breeze blew through the screens. It was dark and quiet since I had no neighbors for miles. They built next to me years later. For now, I was enjoying the quiet and the fresh air. I just acquired a small dog that I saved from an abusive household, and she was getting mentally better and becoming my best friend. She died a couple of years ago, by the way. Excuse me. So I'm right there with you when it comes to your horse macaroni. Sorry for your loss, man. Life is a rough road. I'll get back to it now. In the early morning hours, maybe around 2 or 3, I heard that samurai chatter everyone talks about. It sounded like it was just a couple of 100 feet away from the house at the corner of the road. Athena, my dog, pissed her way from the living room to under my bed. The frame was 3 inches off the floor. You can imagine the bumpy struggle she had to get under there. I wasn't happy about her shivering and being completely terrified. However, I was thinking of the time it might have been a couple of drunks parked out there making noise. It's easy to confuse what people are saying from a little ways away. Except looking back on it, the voices echoed through the woods with force, it seemed. I sat up, listened intently, out my bedroom window. Then I looked out to see who was there. I saw nothing. Even on the clear half-moon night. So stupid. Half asleep and pissed off me. Let me read that one more time. I think I'm getting tired. So, stupid, half asleep and pissed off me decided to yell out, "Shut the F up, people are trying to sleep." I then heard a grunting and snorting for about 2 seconds before the brush started breaking. I heard multiple hard footfalls, the loudest I've ever heard, running through my wood line. They sounded like a big machine that could knock anything out of its way. Branches broke, and even a couple of small red pines were pulled up and tossed in the yard. The angry hulking sounds moved north and away from the tiny cabin. They finally faded away into silence. The only sounds I could hear were the bones of Athena's legs hitting the floor as she shivered, and my heart and breath. We did not sleep the rest of the night. Of that night, naturally. For the next 3 years, pebbles were tossed on the house at night. Once in a while, I would get a few slaps in the night on the cabin walls, and it sounded like a shotgun going off in here. One summer, I put out apples and peanut butter way the hell out in the woods for them. It was a peace offering from me. They returned the favor by tying dead rabbits and squirrels together and placing them under the bedroom window every night for a week. How's that for weird? That's pretty weird. I have other encounters to share, but I'll get to them some other time. Right now, I'll talk about the idea I had. First, I'd like to say that the people will never know the facts by being science deniers and haters. The truth is, and cannot be, presupposed conclusions. We need scientific professionals with outstanding ethics to help us out. Otherwise, how are the rest of us going to know the facts about these beings? It seems to me that the general public is putting a stop sign in front of themselves. It puts a halt to further learning. Why? It's because we know it all apparently. It's because we know it all apparently with our foregone conclusions. Then we go off of those beliefs as if they are fact, and nobody's ever going to change our minds about it. That's the stop sign right there. Armchair warriors have no clue. Anyway, here's the proposal to fix that. Why don't we the people fund a study and support actual scientists and labs to help us out? We could get a campaign going for the study of the hide and don't seek subject matter. I've already emailed Dr. Blank Blank just to see what he thought about this idea. I can't wait to hear back from him. While that's going on, what do the fans of your platform think about doing this and sharing with all the other platforms to get the word out? Will this be a viable option to catapult us into the next leap of discovery? Will we finally have a way to get the answers we want? It won't hurt to try, right? Now, what's next? Well wishes to you and yours, Steve. Stay safe and don't get eaten. Randy the Harmonica Man. All right, Randy, I don't know how old this email is I received from you. I'm thinking it must have been a while back. Excuse me. Why do I keep clearing my throat? Because I just ate. What should I say to that? All right, the doctor you mentioned. Kicked to the curb, off the team. We don't promote him. We don't mention him here. Why? Because I know firsthand fact that he's played a nasty, dirty, filthy role in attempting to annihilate a true, honest, very intelligent, hardworking scientist's career because she was coming forward with exactly what you're after. We funded her. We helped her. She's helping us. She's found a shit pile of truth, and that doctor and others, so-called scientists, have done and continue to do whatever they can to prevent those results, trying to prevent those results from being acknowledged publicly. And that's where all of us have come in. That's where we are. We know who those individuals are who do not want the truth known, and we've kicked them to the curb. I don't give a shit what happens to them. They don't take up any space in my mind. If they're to get flattened by a Mack truck tomorrow, whatever. Onward, keep going. It's just me. I don't have any respect for anyone who attacks and annihilates innocent people, especially women. That's just me. But if you want to be certain to cross the line of no return with me, just abuse a woman, abuse anybody. Be deceitful to the general public in a big way. Yeah, I'm done with you, man. I'm done with you. I don't care what happens to you. I'm done with your ass. Get out of the way. Alright, I'm really tired. I can tell. Because I can get a little carried away in my passion on some of these topics, right? And babble a little too long and get myself a little upset. So, I'll bite my lip. Let's just say, thank you so much for the email. The suggestion has already been done. Dealt with. We've dealt with it. We did it. We funded, we took care of our scientists, and we fully back her. And she'll be sharing all she's got with all the good people here and more shortly. Alright? There you go. Now, yeah, I'm definitely getting tired. That was a long day. It's a long day. And I'm going to have a long day tomorrow, I hope. I'm going to help this young lady harvest her first bull elk, and I hope it's a monster past its prime, big old bull. I hope I call it in for her, and I hope she keeps her shit together and makes a great shot, and we get to celebrate and harvest every single speck of meat off that carcass and carry on. Excuse me, but if I do, I'll share what I can here. Either way, I'll be videotaping as usual anyway, so I'll videotape the adventure, and who knows. I don't know what kind of time they got, but once they're done, I'll probably keep going. It's going to be new country for me, and who knows, maybe there'll be something cool there for me to video and share with all you later. So there. By the time you're listening to this, I'm probably in the woods in the dark listening for elk bugling. while you're listening to this video right now. So here we go. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Oh yeah, I'm getting tired. I can't even remember my own freaking email. And to the possible, I don't know, 20,000 new subscribers that have arrived here in the past couple of weeks, welcome. Welcome. You're welcome here. The door is wide open. It's free. And you will be treated with absolute respect. But be cautioned. If you're here to stir shit, this crew of people are going to gobble your ass up and spit you out like that. Anyway, I'm out of here. Good night, everybody.